our best. Tonight on The Story, we're taking you to this homeless camp in the coastal city of Seaside. It's been around for a while as a designated place that homeless people can stay. And as you can see, dozens of people stay here.
They all think all of us are criminals and druggies, which, some of us may be that, but we're all human beings.
Tensions are building between a community group that feeds them, the city manager's office, and the surrounding neighbors as the crisis shows no signs of letting up.
It's tiring and I'm done. I'm literally done.
We're doing our best with the resources we have in our community.
I had a friend who died. She fed the homeless before she died. And she came to me and said, "You need to feed the homeless." And so I do.
It's our big story tonight.
We'll do it.
As a mother,
My husband and I always wanted more children. He didn't. And now I have them.
Lindsay Morrison cares for those in need the one way she knows how.
I try to get as many carbohydrates in them every day as I can so that they stay warm.
Out of this church kitchen for $50 a month.
You can cut out 48. We'll do 48 today.
Lindsay runs a volunteer group, Nourish Those in Need, cooking for homeless people in Seaside 6 days a week.
They're so grateful. You'll see.
Oh, that lady is my friend. She's like an angel.
Between the Seaside Recycling Center and Chapman Ponds is the city's only immediate overnight shelter option for people like Jason.
Now it's kind of pushed everyone here, and it's really hard to do that because, people fight with each other.
So the city of Seaside, they do the very minimum to make it look like they're helping us.
There's only so much our tax base is going to be able to do. And so I'm glad there is a place for people to go.
City manager Spencer Kyle says those staying there get bathrooms, water, and trash pickup, costing taxpayers tens of thousands of dollars each year.
The biggest cost to taxpayers is really more on cleanup efforts. We go in sometimes once a week or sometimes more and do a campsite cleanup.
It's a very tough spot, and I don't know what to do for them.
Ken Zittenfield's apartment building overlooks the camp.
They really haven't caused too much problem.
A few doors down, directly behind the tents,
First of all, I can't tell you the money I've lost.
Doc Shaw has a different story.
32 cameras on the building, and every night it sets them off. I'm 54, 3 kids under 5. Try to get them out of bed to get down here to meet that demand. It's tiring and I'm done. I'm literally done.
He runs this auto shop, a Seaside staple, for 15 years.
Like I said, I have empathy for them. I understand this. Like I told City Hall, you are not fixing the problem. This is not a fix for this. But when do we say, you can't think for yourself and we need to think for you? We do it for our children.
That should feed 48. I get a lot of grief about enabling them. And I worked in 3 drug and alcohol hospitals before moving down here. And so I know about addiction, and I know that it's a disease, and I know that there's generally only one way down. But the least I can do is feed them.
Recently, that's become a little harder. The city of Seaside put up no parking signs along the street by the camp. It's a major access route to the public works yard and where Lindsay delivers food.
5 police came about a month ago and said that I would be given a $360 fine if I parked there again. So they ran us out.
I think it's BS. It's stupid.
We have been receiving a lot of complaints in the neighborhood about parking around the camp.
If we couldn't park near them, how are we going to feed them?
Lindsay found a way. She uses this red wagon to deliver the meals instead.
Dinner! Hi, Adam.
I have empathy for that because I understand where they come from. I like the lady that's doing it.
Oh my goodness gracious.
I don't think it helps much.
Okay, milk and juice. Grab a milk, grab a juice.
It's a delicate balancing act, and we're going to make mistakes, but we hope to get them right more often than not.
Come on, let's get dinner! Come on!
They're our only resource for food besides one other place downtown. We're lucky to have them. I mean, without that, I'd be stealing from Safeway or something probably.
Yeah, everybody wants dinner, right? Okay, so seconds for anybody who wants seconds. Here you go, honey. Grab some milk and juice. Yeah, it feels like a mom.
Thank you.
You bet.
So interesting dynamic there for sure between all sides. And that's what we see in bigger cities like here in Portland too. The same issues, just on a different scale. And I will add, Lindsay, that woman who runs that grassroots group, has experience in the addiction field, like she mentioned. And Doc, the guy who runs that auto shop, repair shop, also has experience with this. He told me an older son of his struggled with addiction, but the two have very different views on how to handle it. You know, I see that a lot when covering these polarizing issues. Which way is the right way? Well, that's really hard to say. But when it comes to the city's response, the city manager tells me they've received so many complaints about that encampment over the years. For some background, I was there 2 years ago when it was just down the road a little in an area almost like a nature preserve, but that would often flood due to king tides. Tents would end up floating down the river, and one man got caught in the tides as well. So obviously that didn't work. The city is now moving them to a third location behind the Public Works building, which the city manager says is not surrounded by businesses and homes. He also adds it's bigger, so the homeless people will have more space instead of being on top of each other like they currently are. The city is working on fencing the site now. No move-in date is set. All right, so what do you think about all of this? What would you do in this situation? You know we love to hear your thoughts, so email the story at kgw.com or call and leave a voicemail, 503-226-5090. Now, aside from homelessness, graffiti is one of the most visible issues in the city of Portland. And a so-called prolific graffiti vandal made his first appearance in court today. While he allegedly had no problem spray painting the word Geimer all around town, a 40-year-old James Fischel hid his face from our cameras today. His Geimer tag apparently stands for "Graffiti is me escaping reality." Well, reality caught up with him after he participated in an online docu-series called Chaos Town, showing off his stash of paint supplies worth over $10,000. Now, even though he tried to hide his identity in that show, officers still recognized him and raided the stash at his home in East Portland's Centennial neighborhood last summer. But it took months to finally arrest him. That happened yesterday. Fischel faces 9 counts of criminal mischief, 2 of them felonies. If convicted, he would face several years in prison and tens of thousands of dollars in fines. He is allowed out of jail until his next court date in Multnomah County, which is in March. But before that, he has a trial late next month in Klamath Falls on felony marijuana-related charges. All right, let's get to some of your thoughts on our big story from last night, the first city council meeting with Portland's brand new form of government. And let me tell you, it was anything but smooth sailing. Their first major order of business was to elect a council president, and it took hours. Trust me, I was there. It took 10 rounds of voting before a deadlock finally gave way, with Ilana Purtle-Guinea finally reaching the 7-vote majority threshold. So the president's job is an important one. She'll play a critical role in setting the agenda for the policy, making council deciding what does and doesn't get brought up for discussion and potential passage. Now, we gave you an inside look at some of the drama during those seemingly endless rounds of voting. You can find that segment on the KGW YouTube page, but we asked for your thoughts on council's first day, and we got a number of messages like this one from Steve.
I'm not surprised by the opening dysfunction demonstrated by our city council. I opposed the charter because I was concerned that we couldn't get 3 out of 5 city council to agree on important decisions. How are we going to manage to get 7 out of 12?
Marvin wrote on our YouTube page, arm wrestled for hours just to elect a figurehead. This is going to get ugly sooner than later. More squabbling, more taxes, more progressive enabling, a 3-ring circus on steroids. Star wrote to us, I was laughing my head off listening to the new city government meeting. And of course, no surprise that they got hung up on policy rather than action right out of the gate. Too many chefs spoil the broth, as they say. And Elaine told us, I watched it live and feel like your analysis was spot on. I was so disappointed that they had conflicts right out of the gate. I wish some opinions could have been expressed in a less bristly manner. All right, those are the comments we got as far as substance is concerned. But several other messages were like this one from Margie.
So if it was the new city council's mission to try and discourage people from following them very close, I'd say mission accomplished. It had very poor technical And even when the audio visual was working, it cut out so much that you could barely understand a lot of things. Yeah, not a good start.
Kate was blunt. So what did I think of the new council? I don't think anything, as I could not clearly hear what was being said. Okay, so those technical issues, audio chief among them, was an issue for us as well. With the recent renovations of council chambers, the city does not yet have a spot for us to plug in our cameras to get audio straight from the microphones. So we had to try and get the sound from the speaker system, which, yes, does not sound great. The other option would have been to get sound from the city's live stream, but as Margie and others said, it was no good there either. We'll keep doing whatever we can to try and make things better from an audio perspective, and hopefully the city can work out their technical woes as soon as possible too. Take a look at this crazy surveillance video from Portland's Montevilla neighborhood showing an armed robbery of a pet store. It's a little hard to see because it's actually in a window reflection of an outdoor facing camera, but this is from the Personal Beast store on Stark, just west of 82nd. It happened just before 5 o'clock last night, and the suspect pistol whipped the manager before going for the cash in the register, firing a round into the floor before getting away with about $150 in cash. Okay, we're going to bring in John Adams now. He's outside the pet store. John, how is the community responding?
Well, Blair, there has been a great support from the community, many of them taking to social media in the hours after this incident took place. Hundreds of people leaving comments on a Facebook post about the incident, showing support for the store and leaving pictures of their furry friends as well. Also, just doing anything they can to raise the spirits of the employees here that were involved in the situation. Phil Brooks says that support has been huge to keeping them encouraged and moving forward. Now, if you've ever been to the store here on Southeast Stark, odds are you've been greeted by Freddie the cat, who oftentimes greets visitors when they walk through the door. Now, Freddie was in the store at the time of the incident, but wasn't hurt and is a little shaken up, but doing okay. Now, Portland Police has taken parts of that cash register involved in this incident back to their lab. They're going to analyze it with the hopes of obtaining some sort of fingerprints that could lead them to who that suspect might be. Blair?
We're glad Freddie is okay. John Adams in Montevilla. John, thanks. Well, coming up next on the story, Oregon did something in 2024 that had not been done here in over 70 years. Unfortunately, it's not a good thing and involves whooping cough. The disturbing numbers and an update on this brutal flu season that's turned deadly when the story returns.
Following the New Year's terror attack in New Orleans, misinformation circulated, as it often does in the wake of big events. Some initial reports appeared to indicate the attacker may have been in the country illegally, prompting some people to blame ineffective border security. A viewer texted us to ask if President-elect Donald Trump said the suspect was an undocumented immigrant. Federal investigators identified U.S. citizen and Texas resident Shamsud Dean Jabbar as the man who intentionally drove a truck through the Bourbon Street celebration. He was also a U.S. Army veteran. Here's how the misinformation about the attacker's citizenship appears to have started. On Wednesday morning, Fox News reported the suspect's truck crossed the U.S. border in Eagle Pass, Texas, quote, 2 days ago, implying that the attacker may not have been in the country legally.
This person came through Eagle Pass, Texas 2 days ago, okay?
Shortly after, Trump posted on Truth Social saying criminals coming into the U.S. are more dangerous than the ones living in it. His son, Don Jr., added on X, Biden's gift to America, migrant terrorists. Following the FBI's confirmation that Jabbar was a U.S. citizen and the truck he was driving was a rental, Fox News issued a retraction, adding, quote, the identification of the driver that crossed the border does not appear to be the shooter. We will get more clarification. But that didn't stop the misinformation about the attacker's citizenship from continuing to circulate online, and the posts by Trump and his son have not been deleted. With Your Verify, I'm Brandon Lewis.
Well, now to an update on the southern resident orcas that we told you about last night. A calf in the J-pod died recently, and now experts are pointing to a lack of food as the main reason the population is struggling to recover. Biologists say southern residents are not finding enough salmon for their young to survive. The dead calf was born to Mother Tahlequah, who became known around the world in 2018 because at that time she carried her deceased calf on her back for 17 days. And she's now doing the same with this calf.
This shows that we haven't made enough progress. We haven't done enough to bring back the salmon.
The Center for Whale Research says the endangered southern resident killer whale population is down to 73. Now, the only shred of good news here is another calf has been spotted in J-pod and appears to be healthy. All right, now let's talk about the flu. We deal with it every year, and while it's mild for some, experts say we should be taking it seriously because of the risk of death or long-term complications. Today we learned that 2 kids in Oregon died from the flu just in the past week. The Oregon Health Authority isn't releasing much info about them. We only know that they're 2 kids who lived in Oregon and are under 18. We do not know what county they lived in, whether they were related, or whether they got a flu shot this year. Now, plenty of kids get sick and go to the hospital with the flu each year, but it's fairly rare for it to be fatal. Last year, there were not any flu deaths in kids in Oregon. The season before, there were 3, none for the 2 years before that, and 4 kids died in the 2019 to 2020 flu season. We're at the peak of this year's flu season, meaning we're only about halfway through. OHA experts expects that we'll have about 10 to 12 more weeks of higher flu activity. They say if you haven't gotten your flu vaccine, there's still time, and it's the best way to protect yourself.
Children under 2 years of age in particular are more likely to end up in the hospital. They have less immunity, they have less reserve, and more likely to run into breathing problems and so on, feeding problems. And so for that 6-month to 2-year age range, it's even more important. It's a very safe vaccine. Literally billions of doses of influenza vaccine have been given. Very few people will have an allergic reaction to it.
Each year's flu vaccine is developed based on which strains scientists think will become most dominant. Dr. Seaside says that about 75% of circulating strains of influenza are a good match to the vaccine, but fewer people are getting vaccinated.
Our influenza vaccination rate this year, to date, is down about 4% from where we were last year. About 26% of Oregonians have been vaccinated to date, according to our immunization registry records. we wish it were everybody getting vaccinated, everybody 6 months of age and older. So we can really do a lot better in that regard. And I would urge my fellow citizens to get vaccinated. So please do that.
He says that yes, there is a very small chance of a vaccine complication, but that chance is much, much smaller than the risk of long-term complications or death from the flu. OHA does not track adult flu deaths on a statewide level, but so far this flu season, OHA says 474 people have had to go to the hospital in the Portland area alone because of the flu, compared to only 134 people that went to the hospital last year. Data shows the vast majority of people who end up in the hospital with the flu are over 65. Now, the CDC says 205 children died from the flu across the country during the last flu season. All right, also going around Oregon, whooping cough in numbers not seen since the early days of vaccines. OHA says in 2024, the state had the most cases in a single year since 1950. More than 1,100 whooping cough cases were diagnosed in 2024, the vast majority of them in kids under 18. OHA data shows the vaccination rate for whooping cough has also been falling. Only about 78% of kids were up to date in 2023. 8 Oregonians have died from whooping cough since 2003. 5 were younger than 4 months old, but 2 adults died from the disease last year and 1 the year before. All right, coming up next on the story, the war in Ukraine rages on, and many refugee families have settled here in the Northwest. We'll bring you an emotional story of one such family who got perhaps the best gift of all this time of year: confirmation that their son, taken as a prisoner of war, is safe. That's next when the story returns. Next month marks 3 years since Russia invaded Ukraine, jolting global politics and prompting hundreds of thousands of Ukrainians to flee their home country in the name of safety, some coming here to the Pacific Northwest. Tonight, a family in Pierce County, Washington is breathing a sigh of relief after living the past 2.5 years fearing the worst for their oldest son, who was captured by the Russians as a prisoner of war. Jim Nelson has the story.
In Ording, some 5,000 miles from Ukraine, there is proof that distance is nothing more than the space between the heart and imagination.
My son, Roman.
A mother who's never too far away from her son, as his portrait presides over the small art and gift shop his parents opened after fleeing their homeland with their 7 other children.
The last 2.5 years been hard for us. We were worried about our son all the time.
Through an interpreter, Valeria and Roman Beletsky explain their journey and how it took a turn in May of 2022. Their 25-year-old soldier son, Roman Jr., was captured by Russian forces. The dark places their imagination could have gone.
What if they were torturing him? What if they killed him?
This week, when Russia and Ukraine swapped hundreds of prisoners, the distance between fear and hope shrunk significantly. First came a photo from the Freedom Bus, then a phone call.
First words, he say, "Mom, don't cry. Mom, I'm at home." And it's happy. Listen, it's for us. It's very happy.
Roman was safe.
Although it was hard to believe and to predict, we were always hopeful.
With glistening eyes, his parents watched the news footage from Ukraine, trying to get another look at their son. They settled for the general area he was seated in, and then one of his friends reuniting with his family. Comforted by their friends here, the Beletskys hope, despite the distance, their moment is next.
Oh, well, a little bit of hope to end the show on this first Friday of 2025. Thanks so much for watching. There is more hope coming your way next with the good stuff. And remember, you can stream the story on your own schedule. Download the free KGW Plus app, available now on Roku, Apple TV, and Fire TV. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you right back here on Monday night at 6:30.